What's up everyone? This episode will be all about the story and the lore in Guild Wars 2, so again just sit back, relax and enjoy the video. Also please don't forget to rate the video, comment the video and subscribe for more videos like these in the future. Thanks.
Tyria. The dragons have always been here, sleeping deep beneath the earth, beneath the sea, waiting for the time to rise. "100 years ago, the drowned empire of Or rose from the sea at a dragon's command. A dragon whose name is written in the legends of the dwarves. A dragon known as Zaitan. His soulless army surged from the waters, hungry for destruction. Our ancestors fought against the tide, but Zaitan's power was too great. We have learned from those defeats. We learned that no single nation can fight alone and succeed. The 5 races must stand together against their enemies and refuse to surrender. Heroes come together in glory, discovering new magic, new technology that will save our world. It is time for legends to become real.
The original Guild Wars was created some 4 years ago, and we've done 4 games on it, and told a story in the land of Tyria. Guild Wars 2 takes place 250 years later, and in the time between the events of the first game and the events of the second game, the dragons have awoken. They are elder, powerful, elemental forces which are destroying the world. In order to defeat them, the races must come together. The races have all advanced about 250 years. The Char, which is a race well known from our original Guild Wars, have overthrown their old religious leaders, for example, and become a supreme military technology civilization.
Name Ridlock Brimstone. Rank Tribune. Duty Vanguard for the Black Citadel. Bow to no adversary. With the clamor of anvils and the thunder of guns, we rip each day from life's teeth. Our strengths will shake the foundations of the world.
The Asura, which came up from below, the short little guys, have really developed their civilization on the surface to this beautiful magical technology with golems and gates and everything.
Ignorant clods. I am Zoja, member in good standing of the College of Synergetics. I'm from Ratasum. We Asura will tell you, victory is a matter of ingenuity, not muscle. Even magic is just a clog in the eternal alchemy. Brain, not brawn, will change the world.
The Sylvari have awoken, which is a plant-like race, which is new to this world and feel that it's their destiny to fight the dragons.
Magic is not a tool, little one. It is a river that unites us in its current. I am one of the Sylvari firstborn. Call me Kaith. In the Grove, we hear the land calling out for champions. We answer. Evil threatens Tyria, but our dream will guide us through darkness. to dawn.
The Norn have been driven from their northern homelands by the dragons and now are settling up in their own lands.
Strength is nothing without wisdom. I am heir. I am Lord. In the Great Lodge Holdwreck, we listen to the spirits of the wild. Bear, snow leopard, raven, and wolf. We follow their path to glory. If you are bold enough, your legend will live forever.
And the humans, finally, have been pushed back on all sides. They're an embattled race. In the original Guild Wars, the humans ruled, and they were fighting these other races. In the 250 years since then, they've been losing more and more ground, till finally they have just a few cities left.
My name is Logan Thackeray. I'm human, a citizen of the nation of Kryta. I defend Divinity's Reach. Though embattled, we fight for our homes, our gods, and our queen. Nothing can break our spirit.
We have a really iterative process where a lot of people come in and throw ideas together, and from that we grow the story. We didn't start and say, here is the story, and we're lockstepping every step of the way. We're basically coming up with our original tale, and then as the game grows, as the mechanics grow, as the concept art comes in, we start modifying, we start changing. We get a beautiful piece of concept art. Where can we use it? How can we use it? How does it support our central theme for the story itself? So there are pieces here that you've seen that came along 3 months, 6 months, a year after we began the process, and we say, oh my God, we've got to use this. It gives us a very rich base to work from. While we say the main story, we have the core central tree of the story is through the dragons, is the threat of the dragons to the world. As we discover more about the races, as we discover more about the places, other stories come forward. The humans against the centaurs, the Char against their former religious shaman class that used to run things back in the days of Guild Wars prophecies. All of this, as we develop the art, as we develop the story behind it, they become other stories, and it gives us a very rich world. Not every task goes back to dragons, but the important tasks will come back to dragons. So it gives us a depth for your player experience.
Perhaps one of my personal favorite areas of telling a story is the environment and the world. Mm-hmm. And you have a sort of, you progressed the world since the first Guild Wars. Could you tell us a little bit about what you've built into the world?
Yeah, so the story for Guild Wars 2 is 250 years later since the end of Guild Wars 1. And we've done a lot of things to evolve that story since then. The Elder Dragons have awoken across the world, and as they've come out and awoken into the landscape, they've completely changed the world. They've caused earthquakes and floods. They've raised entire continents from the bottom of the ocean. So the entire game world is completely different than the one that players saw in 250 years earlier in Guild Wars 1. However, there are a lot of key ties that go back to Guild Wars 1 that our players who played the first game are going to recognize. So there may be a city that you remember for Guild Wars 1, and you're off running through this open field, and you're thinking to yourself, this area looks a little familiar. I kind of recognize this, and you're going to come across the ruins of that great city. And there'll be all sorts of things in there that you might recognize. There may be little pieces of architecture that have messages written on them that send you back to Guild Wars 1 and give you, by send you back, I mean they give you information about Guild Wars 1. There's messages left behind by key characters from the first game, where they may give you little tips about what happened to them since the 250 years have passed. So we try to layer a lot of the story from Guild Wars 1 into Guild Wars 2, so there's little hints for our fans who love the first game. But we've also made the story so you don't actually need to know anything about Guild Wars 1 to understand the story of Guild Wars 2, which is really important. People can go out, buy Guild Wars 2, and they don't need to play Guild Wars 1 to understand what's going on. And they'll actually learn the story of Guild Wars 1 through playing Guild Wars 2, through all these little things that we've hidden in the game world that kind of give you the leads back to what happened back then. Your personal story that your character has an entire progression that you go through on your own. And you can bring your friends with you if you want, or you can just do it on your own. But there are a bunch of rewards that you get as you play through that.
By allowing you to bring your friends into your personal story, and you can go see theirs as well. So you can experience their story and experience what they're seeing in the game, and they can see yours as well. And those also scale just like the dynamic events. So it's never going to become super easy if you want to bring your 4 friends into your story with you. It'll still be a nice experience for all of you.
So it starts with that foundation. You mentioned this is in character creation. You are starting to go through a number of biographical questions that create your personal biography. That's the foundation, that's the start. Through that, you'll already have, based upon decisions you make versus decisions that some of your friends may make, you'll see different things. You will have a different personal story that comes from that. Of course, don't forget that every race also will have even different biographical questions that come up. Every race will have different chains that come along that. Okay, now you venture out into the world. You're going through your personal story. You're in the middle of the world and going through dynamic events. You will do things that, for example, you'll have choices in front of you that deal with life and death, that are moral choices, that how you influence somebody. And these will do things like shape your personality. They also, of course, will have outcomes that will directly impact your personal story. So when you go back and you continue to follow your personal storyline, you will see and experience something that is based upon the decisions that you made.
Something I noticed when I played it was that you mentioned the personal story there, and you have different objectives that take you sort of further onto that personal story, but you can sort of freely choose where to go and what to do. Mm-hmm. Is that something that is throughout the game, or is it just specific to areas that you have these choices?
Yeah, so that continues throughout the game. So basically, the personal story is kind of like the trail that guides you through the game world and gives you specific direction. And along the way, you make choices that branch and change your personal story. So you may get a choice where there's an orphanage or a hospital. They're going to get simultaneously attacked by bandits, and you got to pick which one it is that you want to save. And the guards are going to go to the other one and do their best to save that one. But you, as the hero, are going to go try to save one of those. And they're happening in 2 very distinct places. And you need to run to one of those locations and save it. And that sends you to a very different part of the world than if you go to, if you pick the hospital, you're going to go there. And the orphanage is in a different part of the world that you're not going to go to. If you pick a completely different story chain, that'll branch you all the way out in a different part of the world. And along the way, as you're going through these story steps, you encounter dynamic events that are kicking off and changing the world around you. And you get drawn into those and you participate in those. And what we've seen is some people entirely put their personal story aside for hours, and they go off and they do dynamic events for many hours, and they play with everybody else, and like, oh yeah, I have this personal story, now I'm going to go do that for a while. And they go off and they do that, and they evolve the story of their character for a little bit, and maybe they bring their friends along and they do their stories together, and then they discover an event as they're going to another story, and like, oh, I love this event, let's go play this one. So it's really, it's kind of a system that allows them to pick what they want to do, and whatever they feel like doing at the time, they can go there, do it, and have fun.
Because story in MMOs is a very interesting subject, and developers have chosen to sort of tackle it in various ways, but in this way you're sort of building a framework that's sort of reminiscent of a traditional RPG for the player to experience, while you still have the dynamics of an open world MMO.
Yeah, definitely. That is our goal. We want to tackle story head on, and we want people to play Guild Wars 2 and come out of it saying, that story is as good or better as the best RPGs that I've ever played, period. We're not trying to make just an MMO. This is an MMO RPG, and it needs to have the open world dynamic event elements that you would expect to find in an MMO. But it also needs to have the story, and have the personal story that is fantastic and compelling and draws you in, has really good voice acting and story decisions that branch and change your story. All of that needs to be there for a fantastic RPG, and we're putting that element in too. So that's very, very important to us.
In a time of uncertain allies
and dangerous enemies,
Tyria needs heroes.
It is time to forge new legends.
It is time to fight. What is your story?